Released in 1993 on the album In Utero, Rape Me was one of the most provocative statements Kurt Cobain ever made from the heart of the music world. From its very title, it was shocking, but behind that was a message about the violence of victimhood and the irony of reversal. Kurt never wanted it to be misinterpreted, and yet it was. He repeated it over and over.
This is not a song that condones rape. It's the opposite. Rape Me was about the structure of retaliation. If you violate me, I'll violate you. A vicious cycle where the lines between victim and perpetrator blur. It was Kurt's own confrontation with society's unconscious violence.
Before the album's release, the record label pushed back hard. It's too extreme. It'll never get radio play. It'll cause controversy. But Kurt didn't back down. The fact that it's controversial is exactly the point. Rape Me was meant to reach where people were afraid to look. When performed live, the song shifted the energy in the room. Cheers fell silent. Unease crept in. Then, stillness. That wasn't failure. That was proof it was being felt. Not with words, but with emotion. Kurt's voice wasn't a scream. It was an indictment without forgiveness. At its core, this song was about the architecture of revenge, and that applied to the music industry, the media, the public. Everyone consumed him without understanding him, so Kurt cast himself as the raped, a metaphor for being used, exposed, discarded. This was his most personal act of resistance through music. Rape Me was also a metaphor for the industry itself. Kurt wasn't angry just as an artist, but as a human being turned into a product. Go ahead, exploit me. That challenge, that defiance, was embedded in the title. He insisted on showing the ugly side of things. If Polly was a quiet anger, Rape Me was pain that couldn't stay silent. It wasn't about rage exploding, but about the effort to keep speaking even after breaking. That's what gave the song its painful honesty. The lyrics are sparse, short phrases, minor changes. But in that minimalism, Kurt sketched a cycle of violence. Rape me, do it again, waste me. Not just rebellion, but self-destruction, complicity, contradiction. Feminist circles noticed the song too. Amid praise and condemnation, Rape Me unearthed the unspoken. Kurt once said, "This song is for the voices that can't speak." It was solidarity with those silenced and cast out. This song wasn't made to be understood by everyone. In fact, it wasn't for everyone. That was the point. That was Kurt's stance. Its loneliness and conviction were carved into every sound. Rape Me, a song only someone wounded could sing. First-time listeners were often confused. But if they really listened, they'd feel it. This was not a song that condoned violence. It confronted it. Where justice and nice words failed, Kurt used music to go deeper. What is expression, really? It's not about speaking for someone. It's about turning invisible pain into a visible shape. Kurt Cobain knew how to do that, which made his music both fragile and overwhelming. Rape Me was never a commercial hit, but Kurt didn't write it to sell. He wrote it because he had to, while he was still alive. It was not just creation, it was a survival scream next to self-destruction. This song didn't leave behind hope, but it did leave behind a stance. Don't look away from pain. When music refuses silence in the face of violence, truth can emerge in its rawest form. Rape Me, a final, wounded question from someone who had been torn apart. Next, we look at Kurt Cobain as a father and what he sought from music and life in those years. All apologies becomes a quiet prayer caught between family and the self. Kurt Cobain's presence still lives on in the hearts of countless fans around the world. If this video has brought you closer to his life or his music, please consider liking and sharing it. so that his voice can reach someone else too. Even a small action like that can help carry his spirit into the future.